Prior to that, I was a teacher and a coach, and so a lot of these drawings are exciting to me from the coaching lens, so the teaching lens, and then of course as principal now. And so I wanted to give a little bit of overview of just kind of the big picture of a bit of the why and what we're really looking forward to and the proposed plans here that you guys can see. We have what we call the North Shelf area, which is just kind of north of where the school itself lies. And that North Shelf area is where when they originally built this school, we just celebrated 50 years last year, so we're 51 years in. They took a lot of that dirt and that clay and they kind of dumped it up on this area, so it's kind of an elevated shelf area is what I call it, the North Shelf. We had some drainage tile they put in there initially, and that has completely collapsed. And so we're in a position the last several years where after a good rain for about 2 weeks, it's out of commission, we can't even use it. So a couple years ago, we only had 2 baseball home games the entire regular season, and it got to be a point where we had to do something. And so when we had to do something, we got a chance to look at what could that something be instead of just replacing what we have. How can we make it usable 50 years after it was designed to be more usable for our entire school? So we can kind of go through, I think you look at the designs and it looks like a lot of really nice athletic fields, and they are, but we use the athletic facility every day, all day for our PE students. And so we have 2,000 students. PE is a graduation requirement all 4 years. And so the facilities, one great thing about these facilities, the tennis courts, that turf field, it's right outside our gym and our field house. And so we expect and we can see using that in our PE area for all 2,000 students every single day. Right now, it's almost an unusable space without grass growing and just being dirt out there. So we have one stadium space which we can use, but when you have 2,000 kids, it's not safe to put them all in that one space. So all of our students, we have a daily usable clean space for PE. It's a safer area, just it's level with that playing turf and the courts there. It's better for safety. We have, if you look in the drawings and you'll see closely, there's kind of a fenced off area and then a natural area just across. So when our kids are coming out for PE and crossing into that area coming back, there's one spot which will put some kind of a safety area there so that students are crossing in one spot, going in and out of that area when we have high school kids also trying to get back to class in time. So it's a good spot for safety. And then a better spectator experience. If you've ever been here and baseball, I will say tennis especially, a lot of our area, as soon as you get off the field, it just goes down at a steep angle. And so you're almost doing this like calf stretches because you're just standing up on this steep area. You can't bring a chair and sit in a chair. There aren't really bleachers to sit on, and so family members or grandma and grandpa have to stand and watch kids play tennis or play baseball. And so we're going to flatten out that area, so just a much safer, better experience for our spectators. In the arts, so the stadium and the turf area, of course, is used by our soccer and our lacrosse and our football teams, but our band plays there and they practice there. And so this is a great place for, if we're still having a varsity sport and they're practicing on either the new turf field or the stadium, our band can come in and practice and step and know exactly where they need to be, where they need to march, what the lines are, what the yard markers are. Our spirit clubs perform at halftime, our orchestras and dance clubs perform at halftime, so they also can practice in the kind of feel and stadium that they're going to be performing in. And then, of course, to our athletics. We've seen a growth in the number of students that participate in athletics at Buffalo Grove. And also the IHSA has been adding more sports. So a few years ago we added lacrosse. Currently we're at 2 levels of boys lacrosse, 2 levels of girls lacrosse, probably going to 3 pretty soon. There is the IHSA just allowed for girls flag football to begin. We're going to be getting that process here pretty soon. And so if you think about a typical spring at a comprehensive high school, we have almost 20 sport levels. When you think about freshman A, freshman B, JV, varsity, that need to use these facilities. Now we'll be competing for the same facility. Because of that, we have student athletes now that practice until 9 or 10 o'clock at night just to get in. With the facility here, we have all of our underlevels can go right after school. They can be done in time to take our activity bus home. They don't have to wait here for 2 hours or try to get a ride or not come to practice at all. And then our varsity athletes can come later, but we should be done within that second practice time period. So 3:30 to 5:30 is the practice time, 5:30 to 7:30. We don't really have to utilize it 7:30 to 9:30, which is a really, really good thing for our student athletes trying to do all they can, play their sports, and then keep up with the academic concerns. It's a safer area. We've really consolidated a lot of our kind of premier playing facilities into this one area. So as an administrator, if I'm here, if I'm on duty that night, or athletic director, I can just kind of spin 360 and I can see what's going on all around me. Our trainers have a central spot where they can be, and then if we need a trainer for any reason, they can get to their athletes very, very quickly. Personally, I like that we may have a competitive advantage. When you have a facility like this, the IHSA comes and says, we'd love to use your facility to host the regional or the sectional or maybe a state competition. And when our athletes can play at home and they're kind of familiar, it's really nice. Then their fans can come, their friends can come watch them in those environments. The parents have an easier spot of knowing where to go. And then just some of as a coach, just the storage we can have, the facilities right there. Again, access to training in a training area right there on the spot will be just better for our coaches as well. So those are just, it's going to benefit our arts, it's going to benefit all of our students, it's going to benefit our athletes and our coaches. So to have a usable, playable space year-round almost is just incredible for us. So that's the big picture from the school lens. And Andy's going to come and talk a little bit more about kind of the details from more the architect lens.
Hello, my name is Andy Phelps. I'm with STR Partners, one of the architects for the district. And this all kind of started, as Jeff mentioned, the drainage of this site just makes it unplayable for quite a bit of the year. So we're working hand in hand with the Village of Buffalo Grove to address that, both on this site for phase 1 with the new turf field and the drainage that provides, and then also moving into phase 2, we'll be restructuring the drainage basin that exists there already as a parking lot, utilize that for the new varsity baseball, and then providing some new on-site parking as well. As Jeff said, this gave us the opportunity to kind of make the North Shelf a destination. It's kind of hard to see probably as you drove in today. It was dark, but there's really not much going on up there except for some fences and some storage buildings. But now we're going to provide some permanent dugouts at the softball field, painted school colors to give it a nice identity. Same with the concession stand and storage, also providing restroom facilities for men and women that are not on the North Shelf. If you're there at a softball game, you would have to walk all the way to the football field or into the building to use the restrooms, but this will allow you to stay right at the action and get back to it. Just outside of the concession stand is a nice plaza, a nice gathering place with some site lighting and landscaping around it, just to make it, again, a place where you want to go to, not because you have to go. And then the auxiliary turf field provides, again, a place for PE to utilize year-round that with the drainage won't be waterlogged. It'll always be available for the students. And then relocating the tennis courts to this area, again, brings it closer to that concession stand and storage building, and providing for when regionals?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, regional sectionals, yep.
So it makes the regionals and sectionals, a more spectator-friendly space as well. And then as we move into phase 2, again, relocating the varsity baseball field, and then into phase 3, we get into the redoing some of the finishes in the stadium, the artificial turf, and the track, which are coming near the end of their life in the next 2 to 3 years. But then we'll also redo the entry plaza, provide a little grander entrance for that, while also providing a visitors concession stand and restrooms to help with some of the animosity you get between the between opposing teams. Yeah, competitiveness. Competitiveness. But then also that will be utilized by the baseball field so that they'll have concessions and restrooms nearby as well. So we've put together some drawings here, and if anyone has any questions.
Is there any spectator seating?
Yes, for the softball field, we have a set of bleachers right behind home plate. There's just, I think, bleachers all the way up to at the far ends of the dugout.
Yeah,
is
almost
where
in the outfield area.
Yeah, so a much better spectating situation there. At the tennis courts, there are now bleachers there as well. We've divided it into 3, 4, and 3 for the tennis courts with alleys in between for spectators. Those bleachers can also be wheeled over and in front of the new artificial turf field as well for spectators for JV sports and such.
Are you reconfiguring the fields that are there, or are you adding or changing the fields?
We're changing them. So currently, right now on the north shelf is baseball field and a softball field. The baseball field is going to go away for a year, and the site gets re-leveled and regraded to make it more accessible as well as more conducive to the water issues.
So it's the same fields, basically. It will be the same fields.
The addition would be,
Yeah.
we don't have, like the turf field doesn't really exist anywhere. It's really 2 baseball fields and then a parking lot. And now have a baseball, softball, tennis, artificial turf.
Are you taking any fields away?
No. No.
How long is the regrading going to take place?
So phase 1 is going to be complete around.
I can take this question. So, I mean, our holistic schedule is we're targeting an early June start and then going through like end of October. The grading portion of that will really be the first part of it, is demo the site and then regrade it so that the grades are where they need to be to start construction on the rest of the field. So that's probably looking at the June to July type range.
So and that's for phase 1. That's the north shelf.
Correct.
And then phase 2 would be the varsity baseball and parking lot. That would be in summer of 2025.
Is everything being done during the summer months, or is everything being done during the school year?
It does drag a little bit into the school year. Just with the magnitude of work going on, there's about a month and a half to 2 month overlap of when school will start again in the 2024 to 2025 year, where again we're ending probably like late October, early November.
Will it affect too much on the parking?
It should not. At that time, we're going to be kind of self-imposed on the construction site and kind of on our way out. It'll really just be like landscaping at that time.
I would say most of the big equipment
Yeah,
will be
yeah.
off-site
Correct.
by the time school starts.
Would the softball field be open for the spring of '25 season?
That's what we're targeting, yes.
Yeah, so there'll be some sod laid down for the spots that, for the outfield, the things that, the grass won't grow in time for that. So the outfield will be sodded, but the non-playing areas will be seeded.
We do know that the baseball field, the baseball team is very excited about this because they haven't played at home for not many of their games, but they will be displaced, and we have an agreement through the Park District of Wheeling that we're already working on. They know that they have a place to play, a really nice place to play well. We're demoing that area, grading it, putting in the tennis courts, the artificial turf, and the following year, when they have the new baseball stadium, they'll move back in.
When will the sports be ready to use?
So again, that's one of like the last pieces. So the target is we're done with kind of holistically phase 1, end of October, November. So then the tennis courts would be spring, and then the season would be the following.
So the baseball and the softball diamonds, that's all natural grass then for those 2? And then the football field, is that turf?
Correct, yes.
That's turf?
Baseball and softball are on natural grass, and it's the JV and practice is primarily the artificial turf.
A lot of lacrosse will be on there as well, soccer.
Then I have a quick question for Jeff also. Is there anything when you looked at these designs that you saw that you said, wow, this is just really, really nice or spectacular, or has exceeded my expectations compared to what you have now?
I was just looking at the drawings tonight. I've seen these drawings, and tonight I saw those drawings, and I was wow just seeing them come all together. Our baseball parents and team have been great trying to find places to play. So to me, the baseball field, that will be a playable field, is a wow. The turf is an incredible wow. The snow melts faster on the turf, so we can begin to use it. We had a lacrosse free play on turf just last week because it was so nice outside. We couldn't do that on a grass, mud type field. And so the ability for our PE classes on nice days to get outside, to have our underclassmen. I see underclassmen sometimes having to wait until 5:30 and sit here and do homework and just wait for the practice to come. To have all those under levels, to me, that's a wow to get them practice in, home, finish their homework, keep their grades up as well.
The football field, is there going to be just one main scoreboard? And if so, can you tell me more about that specifically?
Yeah, there is going to be one main scoreboard. Again, it can be used for football, for soccer, for lacrosse. It won't be a jumbotron type scoreboard. It's going to be your basic, so we know kind of what quarter we're in, what the score will be. But there will be an easily, and we think it is in a spot which is kind of viewable from other locations. So whether you're watching baseball, you can see the score on the lacrosse game going on, and vice versa.
Just out of curiosity, for the kids that normally come to school from the basin, is there still going to be access for them, or is there a sidewalk, or?
So, I mean, with the first year, from what I understand, and Pepper might have it a little better,
Yep.
they'll be accessible like next fall while they're doing the regrading and putting that in, and then that will go away. Will be a little tight of parking for a year, and then we'll open up that spot in between the varsity baseball and the football, the stadium, to bring that parking back.
Yeah, we're really trying to be pretty self-sufficient over the course of the summer to not impose on athletics and everything that goes on with camps and whatnot. So we're going to try to stay isolated into kind of that north shelf area with construction fence, et cetera. And then again, there might be a couple spots in kind of that pit area that we have to take up at some point, but it'll be very minimal.
If you look on the far rendering, you can see just the tip of the sidewalk that goes off into the neighborhood, but then we provide a sidewalk around the varsity baseball.
Back to the housing, and then students then come through this whole area right over here, right, and walk around and come through. And this will be the new parking lot that will take place in the basement. There'll be some growing pains. I'm sure it'll be at times, where am I going to park? And then we're like, it'll be fine, long term. There always is. It'll be dirty, messy a little bit, and then we'll be done and forget about how it was at the time.
Was there any consideration for turf for the baseball fields?
There was. It gets to a point where you do have to look at cost. We looked deeply into the whole thing, into just the infield. That felt like, and some baseball purists and some of even our own coaches and staff, the grass is kind of the natural way to play baseball. But the amount of usage we can get out of the field, we had to choose between the two. With so many sports that can use that field, we went with the field.
So who's going to be responsible for maintaining the baseball fields and making sure they're ready throughout the course of the season? Because that's been an issue in the past, right? The baseball fields couldn't be maintained.
Yeah, we had to go, and go ahead.
Yes, I can say it.
Sure.
I think, like Jeff said, we have some issue with the drainage over there. It was very difficult because of that and different factors over there for a ground crew excellent on the site to maintain with all of undergoing like the construction and how they will be designed with the proper drainage. We are hoping to not counter that issue. We will do that in-house with our crew.
Right, but there'll still be required maintenance on the fields
Right.
throughout the course of the season. So who's responsible for that?
The maintenance.
The maintenance, the ground
Right.
crew
Okay.
will be,
Right.
yes. And like that will be for a baseball fields. For a second turf that we will have artificial turf over there, we do maintenance outside. Well, we outsource some of the service during before a season and after the season, the same like we do on a main football field. That would be still continuing the same way. But all of the maintenance for all of the fields, it will be in-house.
Forgive me if this has been answered. I know this is being done in phases, and I know you said that there was a June through October start for phase one, basically. Is that going to displace football this season? Or is it going to displace it next year? So there's not going to be any interference with the football schedule, season, home games, anything like that?
No, we're not going into the stadium at all this summer.
Yeah, we're all just on that. Phase one, which is going to be this June to this end of October, is just that north shelf. So
the north
the
shelf.
baseball, which Jeff alluded to, that's targeting next summer. And then phase three is the year after that, to 2 years after.
Okay.
Just curious if there's any room for reconsideration about putting turf in for baseball and softball, because I know it's expensive, very expensive, but I feel like if you look at the cost of bringing tournaments in the summer, I feel like it could maybe offset it potentially. And it could be used when there's bad weather, or teaching practice there too. So just maybe there's any room for reconsideration there maybe.
At this point, I'm excited about what we have. I really am. I think I know the board has approved phase one at this point, and then there's a phase two and a phase three, and that baseball is part of phase two. And we are, this is an incredible outpouring of support, I think, for our facility, and we are one of 6 comprehensive high schools. And so there is a reality to what you do in one building eventually will be replicated at the other buildings, and so that additional cost over time, I think it was just prudent to try to do what we have here. Frank?
You mentioned that the baseball team is going to be using some fields in the Wheeling Park District. Can you be more specific, or possibly not more specific?
I mean, our athletic director is here. Could give you maybe a little bit of insight. I don't know, nothing has been permanently decided upon, but we have a lot of.
No, what's nice is that we have some community partners with our local park districts that we can tap into. Whether it's Buffalo Grove Park District, we've got a nice relationship with them. Wheeling Park District, I know we have a nice relationship through district office. So we'll be able to hopefully use those connections that we have to ensure that our kids are being taken care of.
And they're probably both in close proximity to the high school?
Absolutely, yes, yeah. I believe Wheeling's primary facility is about 10 minutes down the road.
Heritage?
Heritage Park, yep.
Yeah,
and
great
some
facility.
Buffalo Grove Park District fields for our underlevels are obviously local as well. Arlington Heights as well has some fields nearby, and I forget the name of the local neighborhood, but just south of Dundee there, west of Buffalo Grove Road. So there are some facilities that we've already had conversations with some of those groups.
One thing that our board has done really well is when we have intergovernmental agreements with park districts, it's a district agreement. So just because it might be a Wheeling Park District, Buffalo Grove can use it, or if it's Buffalo Grove facility, Wheeling needs to use it, vice versa, or Hershey. So we have a lot of governmental agreements to utilize facilities. Heritage Park is a great facility.
It is.
How's the drainage going to work on the north of where the tennis courts are showing there? Currently, there's
I don't know
kind
the
of
answer.
a big, I don't know, it's probably a sizable.
We have a GHA, David, can you hold it down?
David Guerrero with the project engineer for Hewa Health Associates. So the tennis courts are actually going to flow into the synthetic turf itself, and then we got under drains into synthetic turf that's going to flow everything to the parking lot, to the actual basin that's actually there.
Is that synthetic turf going to be north of those, of the tennis courts now? Going up to the existing fence line that's there, or?
No, the artificial turf is only the football, soccer, lacrosse field. This is all the natural grass.
Okay.
And it's already graded as a drainage ditch, and we're not doing anything up there. We're staying. It's an easement that was created by the village, and so we're staying.
You're staying south of it. Got it. All right. Good. Can I do a double click?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, I don't have a question.
Do you foresee any long-term financial benefit, whether it be from a maintenance perspective, from taxpayer perspective, or anything from this? Now that you don't have to worry as much about the drainage issues or the conditions of the fields, that sort of thing?
I can give you a small perspective for somebody said building lens, and that is we have had to put in annual monies into that north shelf just to try to reseed, regrass, temporary some amount of drainage in there. And it got to the point where it was just kind of fruitless. So we needed a whole, a large picture approach, a holistic approach to really take the whole thing, regrade it all, put in all the drainage we need. Just kind of spot checking it just wasn't doing a job. Our athletes really couldn't play on the field.
And so each time the field would get wet too, they would put down more of the sand mix to try and dry it out. So there's actually, I think, like 9 inches or so. So we're actually taking off the top 6 inches and salvaging that, and are going to reuse that on the field.
Sounds like
so
a
then
litter
in the
box.
coming years, they won't have to, that expense of redoing it all the time.
And the time, to your point, the time of maintenance to try to keep those fields up when the water just sat there was almost nearly impossible, as we saw. And so just the time and energy as well for our maintenance crews to keep it up should be much, much less.
Regarding the parking, it almost seems like you're implying that there's going to be more parking spots, but you're losing a lot of parking spots.
There'll be,
You're
actually
actually
fewer.
net loss there.
Yep.
Okay.
We currently, if you come on any typical school day, there's a lot of empty parking spots, especially in the basin. So I'm not really concerned about parking during school day. When we have large events and multiple events at one time, we need overflow parking. We have already contracted, District 21 has said anytime you need to use Longfellow, which is not that much further than the empty dealerships that we've used across the street that will become Tesla dealerships. So I don't think Tesla wants us parking by their vehicles across the street and walking, but so we can use that with that Longfellow parking lot as kind of our overflow. We're losing, I think, about 60 spots total.
Yeah, even with the loss of stalls, we're still within compliance of the code of what's required for the school itself.
So with the addition of the turf football field, does that mean that the football teams will no longer practice on the baseball fields and tear them up like they have in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
They will no longer practice. That varsity softball and baseball will be for those sports. Yep.
One of the things for storage, because I know right now you have the tennis storage and then you have the baseball storage, and I know you have storage, but is it the same amount of storage, more or less?
It's slightly more for tennis, softball, lacrosse, and soccer, and a little bit of football. And then in phase 2, or actually in phase 3, there'll be some additional storage in the redoing the football entry.
This is kind of a question as a former baseball player myself back in high school. I see on the drawings over there on the outfield behind the baseball field, you have a bunch of trees set up kind of as a backdrop, which kind of creates a nice contrast when you're trying to see the ball. Is the same thing planned for the softball field at all, by any chance, do you know?
Yeah, so at the, you can't really see them so well, I think, but we're taking some of the spoils and creating a hill behind the softball field.
Okay.
And then again, there's some evergreen trees out there as well.
Okay.
Is there a chance that phase 2 and phase 3 will not get approved?
Not in my hands, but I will say the board is well aware of the 3 phases. They do a phase at a time. And I'm certain that with phase 1 being approved, the timing of it has to happen.
What about the funding for phase 2 and phase 3?
We feel confident in the funding sources.
Were you guys thinking of redoing the fence along the north shelf? Because I'm not sure how old that is, but it's getting pretty raggedy. I wasn't sure if that was a high school fence or if that was the village.
You talk right along the road, or
just to the back of the houses along the north shelf?
I don't know that answer, and I don't know if that actually is our property or if that's the homeowners along that way. To be honest with you.
Yeah, any of the homeowners fencing, we're not touching any of their fencing on that side.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was a high school fence or not.
Regarding the baseball and softball field, so there's only going to be one field for each as far as like for JV and varsity? Or?
So the varsity fields will be here, and then the JV fields will move into what we call the east fields. Thank you. So if you can see it in that rendering where Andy's talking, right now where the current varsity softball is, and that area will become our under-level facilities for our JV and freshmen.
Is there any plans for any sort of changing to any lighting for the football field or that area or anything like that?
You're talking in phase one?
Or any of the
Phase
phases?
two.
Yeah, phase one or any of the phases.
So phase one, there is some site lighting, and then we're looking into some sports field lighting for the synthetic field right now. And this plan actually right here shows kind of what that light layout would look like when they're fully on. So the one concern would be obviously if these houses would have been affected. And as you can see, if you come take a peek at this blue scribble line kind of shows the extent of where the lighting will die out if those lights do happen.
Okay.
So right now it's still under consideration, but we are looking into that.
Yeah. But besides, the only sports lighting will be on, would be on the artificial turf field. No lights on the tennis court or the softball field.
Yeah, I just remember when Libertyville redid all theirs, there was a lot of community outcry, but it does seem like when I look at this, that the football field, there's at least a little bit of a gap because of what are those tennis courts behind it at least, that put it a lot further away than some of the property lines, say, at that school. Thank you for answering my question.
The current varsity softball and underlevel softball, so that was one become the underlevel softball and becomes underlevel baseball? So
There's no more questions. We invite you to come up and take a look, and thank you all.
Yeah, thanks for coming.